NFL analyst and good friend of the mothership, Ross Tucker. Ross, good morning.
DA, what's up, bro?
Always good to talk to you, my man. Thanks so much for doing it. I know it's an early morning for all of us after a late night last night. Did you agree at the time with Shanahan's decision in the end of the first half to basically run out the clock?
So there's two different things here. Number one, I agreed with his decision to not take the timeout. And I'll tell you why. There was like a minute and a half left. The Chiefs were punting from their own 49-yard line. I would love to have an analytics guy tell me what the probability is at that point that the Niners score or the Chiefs score in that situation right there. Because if you remember, DA, the Chiefs punt almost got down at the 1-yard line. So I'm okay with Shanahan not calling the timeout there because he didn't know what his field position would ultimately be. Because if he calls the timeout and the ball's down at the 1, he probably essentially just helped the Chiefs get a score at the end of the first half. So I'm okay with that. It ended up being a touchback. They got really close. They missed it by like a foot, downing it at the 1. What I did not care for was running it on first and second down. Once you knew your field position was the 20 and not the 1, I didn't care for running it on first and second down and not calling timeout. I thought that was overly conservative. I would have liked to have seen him try to throw the ball like he did to Wilson out of the backfield or Kittle or Juszczyk, a screen pass, something on first and second down. I would have been a little more aggressive there if I were Shanahan. I'm not saying you have to throw it deep, but to just run the ball on both first and second down, I thought was definitely too conservative.
The Chiefs were trailing 20-10 with 6.5 minutes to play in the game. And Mahomes, at that point in time, had played a relatively underwhelming game. The pass rush of the Niners was all over him, and he made a couple of mistakes. What changed, in your estimation, when Mahomes and the Chiefs offense then clicked into overdrive in the final 3 drives?
Couple things changed. I mean, really, the play, and we all know this, the play that changed the game was the 3rd and 15, 44-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill. After the play before, DA, Tyreek Hill had been wide open, and Mahomes had thrown the ball too short, and Tyreek Hill had to trap it. They initially called it a catch, then they overturned it. That was when I remember thinking, man, this is just not Mahomes' night.
And he threw Tyreek Hill behind Tyreek Hill, which led to that second interception as well.
Right before that. I mean, honestly, it's the worst game I've ever seen Mahomes play, and he was Super Bowl MVP. It was the worst game I've seen him play. Super Bowl MVP. The 2 picks were both terrible. He had another awful throw like in the dirt, and that throw to Tyreek Hill was horrible. But then 3rd and 15, after the replay review, the Niners are in cover 3, and Emmanuel Mosley, the young corner, he bites on an underneath route. Tyreek Hill from the slot runs a 7 route, which is the old flag pattern, corner route, whatever, wide open. I mean, if it's 3rd and 15 and you don't have a guy within 10 yards of Tyreek Hill for a 40-plus yard gain, you, A, deserve to give up a touchdown on that drive, and B, probably deserve to lose the Super Bowl. I mean, 3rd and 15, Tyreek Hill, are you kidding me? Nobody within 10 yards. The whole game flipped there. You could sense the Chiefs, then Kelsey scores. The Chiefs get the momentum. Jimmy Garoppolo played tighter after that, and the Chiefs went to the hurry-up. Niners D-line looked tired, and we all saw what happened. I mean, the reality is Garoppolo played very well for the first 52 minutes, played extremely poorly the last 8 minutes. Mahomes was the exact opposite. So make whatever narratives you want out of that in terms of clutch versus GOAT or choking or whatever, but that's what happened in that game last night.
Ross Tucker is our guest this morning here on the show. Do you think that Shanahan made a mistake putting it in Garoppolo's hands on those final 3 drives?
Not really. I think it's very easy in hindsight when we have access to the results to say, Oh, he was too conservative there. He was too aggressive there. You know, if you are criticizing Kyle Shanahan today by using one part of the game to say he was too conservative, another to say he's too aggressive, I would say stay in your lane. You know what I mean? Like, that's just because you have access to the results.
Well, but let's be fair here, because I was critical of this, Ross. Didn't you think it was curious that on the first 2 first downs of the last 2 drives that the Niners had, they ripped off positive yardage run of the football? One was a 5-yard run, one was a 17-yard run. And after that, Shanahan bailed on running the football on both of those drives, and ultimately Garoppolo sunk him. Is that revisionist history to say that he should have committed to the run more on those 2 drives?
No, I mean, that's easy to say, I feel like, after you know what happened. I mean, there were open guys. He missed throws. He had played well until that point. I don't have a huge issue with it, especially because, you know, defensively, the Chiefs are loading up on the run after those first runs. Like, oh crap, they had a good run. Let's load up. I wouldn't have hated him if he ran it, you know, on second down, like after the 5-yard run. But then let's say they ran on second down and they get nothing. Then they're getting criticized for being too conservative. Then 3rd and 5, Garoppolo throws, oh, you should have never gotten there. Second down would have been the down. I don't have a huge issue with that.
See, I don't think that the Niners could have been criticized for running the football too much. I mean, they gashed both of their opponents in the playoff games, and when they ran the football last night, it was relatively effective. I mean, to me, didn't it seem like that was their bread and butter? Shanahan calls such a great ground game that they should have kept milking that as much as possible, especially with a 10-point lead?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what people will say.
But don't you think
like
that?
I said earlier, I don't have a huge problem with it, because that, by the same token, it's like, well, then why is everybody going to criticize him for running at the end of the first half?
Well, because he wasn't really trying to do anything. He was just trying to basically ground out the clock. I mean, he knew without taking timeouts, like you said, and running the football at the end of the second quarter, that was just to get to halftime tied. That's different than trying to salt away a win when you have the lead late.
Yeah, I guess I would say I feel like they had guys open and Garoppolo had played well to that point, and I'm not going to knock Shanahan in that situation for having confidence in his quarterback and having open receivers. I thought the worst thing he did the whole game was the 2 runs on the last series of the first half. That I thought was really way too conservative.
Did you think the pass interference on Kittle was the right call?
I did. Yep, I thought he pushed off. He didn't need to do it. He was open as it was. Garoppolo threw him a beautiful ball. If the guy is going to extend his hand like that and clearly push off, I think they need to call that. And I know people can look at the Kyle Rudolph play in the, you know, wild card round, and I thought that should have been called too. So, I mean, they both to me were offensive pass interference that should have been called. It's a shame that the Rudolph one was not. But yes, I thought it was a good call. Didn't have much of a problem with the officiating. I thought that they missed a really bad helmet-to-helmet of Garoppolo on a 3rd down that I am surprised they didn't call. But that was about it. I thought overall it was a pretty good job by the officials, thankfully.
Yeah, I agree. That helmet-to-helmet, there was also a hand to the face on either Mahomes or Garoppolo. I thought they should have called as well. But largely, I thought that they had a really good night, the officials. Ross Tucker joining us this morning on the show. You're close to a lot of teams, coaching staffs, players, et cetera. You're on the sidelines. I'd like to know, why does it feel like the Chiefs players have such a different bond with Andy Reid than I hear a lot of other players and their coaches have?
You know, it's a really, really good question. And it's strange because even guys that he has cut, DA, or traded or asked to take pay cuts, they all still love him. I've never heard a former player ever say anything bad about Andy Reid. It's the darndest thing. I mean, most of the time, and I got cut 4 times, DA, I'll say something bad about all those guys. Like after Spurrier cut me, I wanted to try to, when I played for the Cowboys, I wanted to try to run a DB into his legs. Like I don't like any of the coaches that cut me, right? You know, that's not the case with Andy Reid. All his guys love him. And I think he's just a very genuine guy, and he's honest with them. I think he's kind of like your lovable uncle. They feel like he's got their back, and he's just a really good guy. I mean, I've told the story before, but not to you. One year I was there for Sirius XM, and I was doing a training camp show, Eagles training camp. I brought my father-in-law because I thought, join me on the drive. He's an Eagles fan, whatever. So he's at the tent with me where we're doing the interviews. Andy Reid comes over. I said, hey, Andy, this is my father-in-law, David. He meets him. Okay. We do the interview. Interview's over. Practice is about to start. Andy Reid walks into the locker room. It is up at Lehigh. Comes over to my father-in-law with a hat and a shirt and shorts, because my father-in-law was wearing a Penn State hat, and he said, hey, Dad, I got nothing wrong with Penn State, but if you're going to be here, you might as well wear some Eagles stuff. And then he walked away, handed it to him. Like, my father-in-law was cheering his butt off for the Chiefs last night, and he's an Eagles fan. He's just that guy. He's just that guy that thinks of little things like that makes people love him forever.
Did you think that he needed to win last night to cement his place in the Hall of Fame, or was he already in Canton?
So I wrote about this last week in my column for The Athletic. He did not need to win last night to cement his legacy in my mind. I already thought what he did in Kansas City and Philadelphia was crazy impressive and Hall of Fame caliber, but he probably did for the actual voters. Because when you look at the fact that like Dick Vermeil and Dan Reeves aren't in the Hall of Fame, I think Andy Reid needed that to get into the Hall of Fame last night for sure.
Excellent point. Ross Tucker joining us this morning on the show. Now, Valentine's Day is coming up. We're only 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away of Valentine's Day, and you've got a pretty good idea for our listeners for Valentine's Day, myfrontpagestory.com.
Yeah, DA, this is my buddy, and he started the company. He's a writer for a local paper. You literally talk to him or one of his writers for 10 minutes about your significant other, and you say, oh, man, my wife's awesome. I don't tell her enough how much I appreciate everything she does for the kids or around the house or whatever. They write the most unbelievable story, send it to you. It's framed. It looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper, and you're able to give it to your significant other, wife, whatever, and say, hey, babe, I want to do something really special for you this year, so I had a story written about you. Are you kidding me, DA? To be able to say to your wife, I had a story. Who gets a story written about somebody else
That's pretty
for
good.
Valentine's Day? Nobody. And then when she reads the quote from you that says, I just don't tell her how much I appreciate all the little things she does, she will cry and you will win. MyFrontPageStory.com. She cries, you win, everybody's happy. MyFrontPageStory.com.
MyFrontPageStory.com. Very good. Valentine's Day is coming up just around the corner. Ross Tucker, football podcast is a must listen. Listen also to his daily show, Home and Home, on the radio.com app. Same place you get the DA show. You can also listen to Home and Home as well there. Very cool. Ross, always good to catch up, my man. Thanks so much for doing it throughout the entire season.
Absolutely. See ya.
Okay.